Live. All right, bet. Looks like we're live. What's good, y'all? It's your boy Hawk. Welcome to Hawk's Hoop. It's your weekly NBA show. It normally happens every Wednesday, but this past Wednesday, yesterday, I was seeing Beyonce in concert. I ain't gonna hold you, it was one of the best concerts I've ever seen in my life. I'm not necessarily a crazy concert goer, but that one was phenomenal. But we are back today. Had to push the stream back a day, so we'll see who pulls up. If you do pull up live, appreciate you. If you're part of Rewatch Gang, appreciate you for pulling up, of course. And we got a lot of people to talk about. It's the dog days of the NBA offseason. We're watching some Summer League. We're enjoying it, but a lot of the big names, Scoot Henderson and some of the other guys have already shut down for Summer League. Victor Wembanyama shut down for Summer League. I don't know if they shut down Brandon Miller yet. I'll have to look up and see that. But a lot of guys already shutting down. Summer League's still fun to watch just because you might see a young guy pop off and have a really good game a name that you didn't know before. So I'm happy to be here. Happy to talk to some Summer League stuff with you guys. We're going to talk some Dame, some Harden, talk some USA basketball, a couple of other things I got on the docket for us tonight. Should be about an hour. We'll see. Let's go ahead and hop into it. Coop, Lucas and Coop, what's good with you? Good to see you, my guy. Oh, did I forget to do? Let me see. Oh, bet. Thanks for pulling up to the stream, man. All right, so let's get into this. There's a couple of things I wanted to talk about when it comes to Summer League, specifically Victor Wembanyama. Full transparency, I missed his first game. I watched the second game, and I watched like a highlight recap of his first game. And the conversation, mainly on Twitter, was very polarizing, I guess is the word I'm looking for when it comes to Victor Wembanyama. And I think part of that is understandable. The way ESPN, the way the NBA, the way Bleacher Report, the way Fox Sports, whatever, have put him on this pedestal, this elite pedestal that, in all honesty, as much as I can remember, I don't think I've ever seen someone, because I'm going to keep it a bean, I wasn't watching basketball in 2003, 2002 when LeBron James came into the league. And when he was being, looked at as a prospect, I wasn't watching hoop then. I'm just going to keep it a bean. So personally, in my lifetime, I've never seen a player be looked at the way and talked about as much as people are talking about Victor Wembanyama. So his first game, dud. There's no two if, ands, buts. There's no way about it. His first game, he just simply did not have a good game. In his post-game presser, he talks about, he just basically did not know what he was doing out there, and it looked like that. And he also said he was gassed, and that was apparent as well. And the first game, I feel like the Spurs we're just kind of giving him the ball in space, spreading out the floor and saying go to work. There were a lot of times, especially in that when they played the Hornets, when they played when they played Brandon Miller in the Hornets. Correct. When they played Brandon Miller in the Hornets in that first game, there was a lot of guards doubling off and trying to, just commit to trying to steal the ball from him and try to disrupt his ability to dribble in space. And they were very successful with that. But I think a part of that was the Spurs weren't giving him anything good in terms of running sets to get him into his spots. Now let's talk about his second game against the Portland Trailblazers. In my mind, this was obviously a way better game for him. 27 points, 9 for 14 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3, 12 boards, 3 blocks. And one of the things I noticed differently was he just looked more confident. That first game, big deer in headlights energy, just doing stuff. He looked more confident, looked more deliberate. I think the Spurs did a better job of getting him to his spots. There were a lot of post entries, especially if he had a guard mismatch, or honestly, even the big that the Blazers had guarding him in that game looked like a guard mismatch. A couple of things that I noticed. Once again, let him get the ball in the post more. Him in the post, I think, is something that the Spurs and the actual Greg Popovich is going to be able to do more. And I'm very curious to see how they do that. If they try to run some off-ball screens, then maybe get a smaller defender on him in the post. I'm very curious. And I'm looking forward to, honestly, seeing how bigger defenders defend him in the post. Because while he has a height advantage, he won't have a strength advantage over most people in the NBA, at least for not a while, until he, really gets in the weight room, really puts on a grown man body, for lack of a better word. And y'all sleep on the Mavs. Ain't nobody sleep on the Mavs. I'm liking what the Mavs are going to do this summer. We talked about them last week. I just think when he's in a proper system with Greg Popovich, that's when we're going to see what the real version of Victor Wembanyama can look like in the NBA. These summer league games are fun, but I got a note later down we'll get to, but you got to take summer league games with a grain of salt. I'll say that. A couple other things I liked that I saw from him. Rim protection against smaller guards was there when guards were driving. He's got the ability to long arms to deter shots. Once again, interested to see that against other centers with some size and strength in the league, if they're able to use their size and strength to move him to be able to negate some of his shot blocking ability. But when you're that tall and your arms are that long, even if you get pushed back, you might still be able to defend the rim decently. I'm curious to see what that looks like. He has a very high rebound motor. In that game against the Trailblazers, he had 4 offensive rebounds, a couple where he got his own and just got it and dunked it right back up immediately. With his height, his foot speed, being able to get around defenders and stuff, it'll be interesting to see how much he can impact the glass on the offensive side, especially defensively. I think he's going to still be a really good rebounder, but if he can extend some extra possessions, get some extra possessions for the Spurs, that's a really, really valuable asset to have a high motor guy who can get you some offensive rebounds and go right back up with it and get a bucket. One of the things that was talked a lot about him and on ESPN and how the guys were, prospecting him and things like that, but one of the things that I hadn't seen from him yet is his playmaking ability, and that really impressed me. A lot of really good passes for him, either out of the double teams in the posts, on a drive, dumping it off to the other big, just making the right reads at the right times and making smart, intelligent passes. They didn't all turn out to be assists. Some of that, not to talk down on his teammates of the summer league, but I think some of that is the level of competition he was playing with. Some guys were just missing open layups, for lack of a better phrase. NBA players might not do that. Some deficiencies or things I think he definitely needs to improve on are things that like simple things I want to see him get better at that can make a big impact right away. He has to be a better screener. I think the Spurs and Greg Popovich can do a really good job of getting him in some ball screens, getting him in some off-ball screens, setting a lot of screens. Because he's not a big body and doesn't have a wide frame, his screens have to be technical for them to be effective. So he has to make a solid technical screen. A lot of his screens turned into an early slip, which isn't bad at times, or just it wasn't really a solid technical screen and the defender just walked around it very easily. His screens are going to have to be technical. He's not a big guy. He's not a strong guy. His screens just are going to have to be technical. Somebody on TikTok said he should play power forward. It's a mismatch. I like that idea too. I'm excited to see how Greg Popovich decides to use him. Sometimes it's going to be center, sometimes it's going to be power forward. I think he has a skill set for both. Especially because I'll say this. Well, so far what I've seen in the summer league games, there are a lot of times when the Spurs just straight up switched and he was out on an island guarding guards. Now it's not NBA caliber level guards. Let's keep it a bean here. But the foot speed was there. The lateral quickness was there to an extent. I don't think he's going to be some guy you can just say can guard all 5 players. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying here. But I think a good hard hedge and recover, a quick switch and, recover. Those are things I think he's going to be able to do. Showing high on the screen, not just playing at the level of the screen, but showing high on the screen to try to deter shooters, especially with that length that he has. I think he has the ability to be a really good defensive player in the league. The only drawback for him is what everybody's saying is going to be his size. Now, all that being said, ultimately, I am high on Victor Wembanyama, but that's because I'm just an optimistic person. If you've been watching me for a while, you've been rocking with the content for a while, y'all know I was high on Zion. Y'all know I'm still holding out hope for Zion. I'm just an optimistic person by nature. That's just who I am. If it turns out that Vic's a bust, I'm going to put that in quotation marks. We'll talk about that when we get here. But until then, I'm going to be rooting for the kid, and I want to see him turn out to be a good basketball player. At the very least, I want to see him play good basketball. Is he going to turn into the greatest player of all time? Whatever. We'll talk about that in 20 years when his career is over. But for now, I'm just looking forward to see him start his NBA career and play good basketball, whatever that means for him. One of the things I did want to talk about when it comes to Summer League, like I said, full transparency, I haven't seen a ton of Summer League. But one of the things I love about Summer League is the fact that you find out names of people that you did not know. And one of the names and people I noticed that was a huge standout in that Spurs Timberwolves game was Michael DeVoe, a name I have never heard of before. He plays for the G League for the Portland Trailblazers. He had an absolutely phenomenal game. And it was 29 points, 10 and 17 from the field, 5 for 7 from 3. And he just looked really poised with the ball. His speed was there. He was making the right decisions. He was getting to the basket. He was shooting the ball well. And I'm watching it. I'm like, Dags, why? I Googled him because I'm in middle game. I'm like, who is this? Googling him, it says plays for the Timberwolves. Excuse me. It plays for the Portland's G League affiliate team. And I'm like, dang, why he ain't on the roster? And then I think about it. I'm like, well, even if besides Dame, even if Dame does get traded and he not there, he still would be behind Scoot, Anthony Simons, and Shaedon Sharpe. And I'm just like, yo, it's always fun for me to watch Summer League at times because you come up with a name like this. Michael DeVoe, a guy who put on a great game. His name is now out there. Maybe he'll get a 10-day somewhere. Maybe he'll get an opportunity to go to another Summer League, another G League team, and get an opportunity to get called up and get some NBA minutes on a different team if the minutes aren't there for him on the Timberwolves. Just talking here. But that's why I like Summer League. And that's why I continue to watch. Because even when some of the bigger names and some of the names of the guys aren't playing, if I have a free night, I'm still going to turn it on because I like watching hoop. And Summer League is just fun hoop. And I say Summer League is just fun hoop because in the same breath, Summer League really don't be meaning, not that it don't mean anything, but it's been plenty of guys who had really good Summer Leagues and their career didn't turn out to be that good. And it's been guys who had not great Summer Leagues that turned out to be absolutely phenomenal. So you always got to take Summer League with a grain of salt. It's honestly just for me an opportunity to see some players that you haven't seen yet, especially seeing the rookies. I know I don't be watching college ball like that, but it's also from an NBA team standpoint. I also say you got to take Summer League with a grain of salt because one, it's just fun basketball. Like there's no real stakes. It's just fun basketball. But two, a lot of times teams will do things differently in Summer League than they would during the regular season. Meaning they might give a certain guy the ball more during Summer League just to be like, hey, go out there and work. We just want to see what you look like. But he might be an off-ball guy during the regular season or vice versa. So. Or he's the number one option on a Summer League team, and he's a six-man, that's not doing that much in the NBA season. So it's just an opportunity to see guys in a different light. It's an opportunity for NBA teams to try something new. So that's why you also got to take it with a grain of salt because how a person's used in Summer League might not even be how they're used during the regular season. Anyway, moving on from Summer League stuff. Let me see. What y'all talking about on TikTok? What y'all talking about on the Tickety Talk? Pelicans should stop playing and trade Zion for Dallas for some Pringles. Zion trade rumors are. Somebody the other day told me they don't think Zion actually even wants to be in New Orleans based on what he said during the play-in. During the play-in game when the New Orleans Pelicans were playing in the play-in, they asked Zion. There was rumors that he might play. There was rumors that he might not play. And basically got an interview, said, I'm healthy. I just don't feel like Zion. And I thought was weird at the time. We talked about it on stream when it happened. But somebody told me they took it as he doesn't want to be there in New Orleans. Personally, I didn't take it like that. It's an interesting thing to think about. I really do think New Orleans put a really, really good team around him in terms of the pieces that they have there. With him there, that team can be so good. It just really depends on if he's healthy and is going to be out there on the court or not. I want to move on to talk about, oh, snap. I ain't even see the chat just refresh. I ain't see nobody there. Sleazy, what's good with you, my guy? Ain't no problem. You late. We there late. Zion's mom doesn't want him to play in New Orleans. You heard? Really? What's good with you, Guru? Thanks for pulling up. Lucas and Coop, you should be my AAU coach. You know a lot of basketball and what plays and react to. I think it's funny that you mentioned that. I used to coach. I coached for like a year and a half. I loved coaching, but it's not my thing. There are definitely better basketball minds than me, which is fine. Lucas and Coop asked, do I like the new rule where you have to play 65 to win, 65 games to win MVP, Rookie of the Year, stuff like that? I do actually really like that rule. I think we've talked about that on here before. But if the rule is you got to play 65 games, and I think you have to play a minimum of 20. Oh, the NBA just granted the Bulls $10 million disabled player exception for Alonzo. So they'll probably pick up somebody. Anyway, the 65 game minimum rule, I think you have to play a minimum of 20 minutes. I think it's actually a really good rule to just establish some sort of baseline in terms of the voting. Because one of the things that was in question this year was the simple fact that there were so many people who load manage, or I'll say were injured this past season, that there were a lot of guys who just missed out on All NBA because they or were close to missing out on All NBA, or they might have had the stats for it, but I don't know if voters know if they should or should not have voted for them for All NBA just because of games played. There were a lot of guys that fell into that category this season. A lot of guys who are normally perennial All NBA caliber guys, but because they were around 60, 50, 67, some of them ranging anywhere in that space, there were conversations of, well, can we vote for him? Should we vote for him? That 65 game mark, they've come out with some things that might be exceptions and stuff like that, but that 65 game mark I think is perfect. It's still a majority of the season. It gives voters a baseline. I think there needed to be a baseline. Jacob, what's good with you, my guy? Yeah, like Kawhi. I don't remember where I want to say he was in the 50s this year. I'm not 100% certain, but I want to say he was in the 50s this year in terms of games played. But I know LeBron might have been like low 60s or high 50s. So there were a lot of people that were, for me at least, very close to that threshold. I don't remember off the top of my head. When we looked at it a couple weeks ago, I knew it. But off the top of my head right now, I'm a little iffy on that. Somebody said they think the Pelicans need Jarrett Allen. I just don't know if that'd be space. That's spacing. I don't love that spacing, especially because Valanciunas was killing from three to start the season. It's in the thumbnail, it's in the title. I want to talk about Dame and James Harden. I think they're two very interesting situations. We talked about them briefly last week. I'm going to keep it a bean. I didn't have all the requisite information I wanted to have. I took some time this week to really just catch myself up on the situations, where they're at. And I wanted to share it with y'all and more so get y'all opinion on both of their situations to an extent, but more so the Dame one. And essentially, my question is, and I'm going to just start out with the top, and then I'll go into some more information and my thoughts on it. There's this thought and idea process that because Dame's agent and Dame himself has basically said they want to go to Miami, that he will be unhappy if he goes anywhere else, that no other team should make an offer for him, and if a team does, mainly because he won't play. I had people DMing me on. I had people DMing me on Instagram. I had people DMing me on TikTok and Twitter over the last week. I posted a video about Dame like a week ago saying that I'm not worried about the Miami Heat, but we were talking about on a stream of the thought that Miami Heat are going all in on this Dame deal, a Dame deal that in theory truly can't even happen with all their best offers until the end of this month, and we'll get into that in a second. Why? And they let the two lead guards who helped get them to the playoff, get them to the finals, walk in free agency. And people are telling me, well, Strus and Vincent were trash in the finals. Like, they were cold in the finals. We don't need them. We got Tyler Hero back, which you do. Like, you know what I mean? Tyler Hero is going to be great next year for y'all. He was great, last year for y'all. And everyone's telling me, even if another team does trade for Dame, he's just not going to play. I don't think that's feasible. Like, I don't think that's feasible logic. And I just need to know if I'm tripping. So let's get into this Dame stuff, right? So Dame wants to go to Miami. We know this. And I'm looking to the side because that's where my notes are. Dame wants to go to Miami. Miami's essentially, I think this was from ESPN. It was an ESPN article I was reading. Their best deal, or what could potentially be their best deal, is a maximum offer of 2 first-round picks, the 2028 and 2030. They have 5 years of first-round pick swaps available that they could do. They don't have to use all of them. They got them 5. They got the 2022 first-round pick, Nikola Jovic, young guy still, because the Blazers have said they wanted young guys. And then they have this year's 2023 first-round pick, Jamie Jasquez Jr. But the thing about JJJ Jasquez Jr. is he can't be traded until July 31st because he was drafted. Portland doesn't want Tyler Hero because he has 4 years on his contract and he's worth $120 million. So there's an opportunity for a third team to pick up Tyler Hero and then give their pick to Portland. That's seeming like would be the best scenario that the Miami Heat can pull off. Give him some picks, give him some pick swaps, give him those two young guys. Tyler Hero goes to a third team, and then that third team gives hopefully a good pick to the Blazers. And then, I mean, obviously, the Miami Heat get Damian Lillard, right? Yes, I agree. If they get Dame, they got to give up Tyler. I just don't think the Blazers want Tyler because of his contract. Because at this point, the Blazers are, if they give up Dame, it's obviously we're going young, we're rebuilding, we're building around Shaedon Sharpe, Scoot Henderson, and Anthony Simons, and we're going from there and see what we got. And then we can even still trade Jeremy Grant and get some more picks from him. Like they're set up for a good rebuild. They have, between Dame and Jeremy Grant, they got two really good pieces to trade away. They just got to see what their trades are. Now, my conversation or my only hiccup or thoughts on this was the Blazers don't have to trade him to Miami. There are a lot of people who are saying the Blazers should trade him to Miami. He stayed there. He stayed 10 toes down. He tried to win a championship in Portland. He was there for, some, I don't want to say questionable GM decisions, because I think, to me, the Portland Trail Blazers, to an extent, did as much as they could in terms of trying to build a competent roster around him. There were a couple of years where I think the Portland Trail Blazers, I don't know if they had an opportunity to fully win a championship, but they had an opportunity to be some really, really good teams. But then Nurkic goes down with some injury. Dame ends up injured like 2 years ago. They trade away CJ. Like, I think they had an opportunity there to try to make some real noise, but I think some injuries hit him at the wrong time. So now I think NBA fans are split between, do you just trade a superstar where he wants to go because he was there for your team, or do you, as the GM, and this is this GM's biggest trade of his career? What is his name? I wrote it down. Joe. Did I not write it down? I swore I wrote this man's name down. I guess I did not. Joe Cronin. I knew it was Joe something. It's Joe Cronin's biggest GM move of his career. Hands down, biggest move of his career. My thing is, and that's you making a good, you bring up a good point, Sleazy, and I'm gonna talk about that in a second. My thing is this, 2 points. One, Joe Cronin doesn't have to send him to Miami. He can wait until they get the best option. The only reason I'm saying they can wait till they get the best option is because if they do trade away Dame, it's not like they're trading away Dame to try to continue to win. If they trade away Dame, it's going to be not necessarily full-blown tank, but it's going to be youth development. And youth development typically means we're going to lose games, right? So if they don't feel like they get an adequate trade package for Dame, and Dame is, because I feel like people forget this part of it as well, Dame is under contract for the next 1, 2, 3. What is Damian Lillard's contract? 4 years? I want to say he still has on his contract because he re-signed that extension, that 2-year extension last year. He's still under contract for the next, oh gosh, yeah, 4 years. Let me pull this up right here so y'all can see this. Oh, screen share right. Damian Lillard is under contract until 2027. He has a player option in 2027. He could be an unrestricted free agent in 2026 if he decides to turn down that player option. But with that player option being $63 million, he's essentially under contract till 2027, 4 years from now. My statement is this. There's no rush for the for the Portland Trail Blazers to trade Damian Lillard. They have no reason to rush to trade him. So if there's no rush to trade him, and yes, you bring up a good point. Then the conversation goes, see, I thought somebody said something different, but they didn't. The conversation goes to, well, what other options are out there? I don't think there's necessarily other teams that are 100% interested in Dame, or let me rephrase. I don't think there are teams that have like all the picks, right? Those type of teams. Like when I think of OKC, when I think of the Jazz, those are teams that I've seen like articles from The Ringer and articles from Bleacher Report talk about like a what if scenario, if you will, that since these two teams are teams that have a ton of picks, and it's clear that the Portland Trailblazers want to go into a rebuild and want draft capital in return, they could easily come over the top of almost anybody's offer and get Dame if they wanted Dame. I don't necessarily think that's what they want, though, considering Dame's going to be 37 when he's a free agent at the end of his career, making at the end of his contract, making $63 million, which right now sounds crazy. And I feel like maybe I'm talking in circles, but this is something that really triggered me, but how many people was really like not seeing this. The amount of people that said if Dame gets traded to another team, he will just sit out and not play. Considering he has 4 years left under his contract, that's literally just not possible. There's no reported injury going on with him right now. So if he pulled a random injury card out of nowhere, it'd be obviously a red flag. He would have to play. He would have to play. The amount of people that said he wasn't going to play, it's mind-boggling to me. So maybe I'm tripping. So I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to clip this. I'm going to find a clip this, put this together. Y'all going to see this on TikTok sometime this weekend. Because I really want to know if people truly think if Dame gets traded to a different team, does he not play? That doesn't make sense to me. But maybe people seeing something that I don't see. Yeah, there aren't a lot of teams that are willing to give up a lot of draft compensation or a lot of valuable players. I agree with you there. But I also just think, and maybe he does end up in Miami. And you know what's even crazier? That's the last thing I want to say about this Miami thing. And then what's up, VR? I'm going to click your comment and address that in a second because you are correct. The crazy thing about me in this whole Dame situation, and I come across as a hater because people's logic really is, I think, frustrating me. And that's why I'm coming across as a hater. But the wildest part is I want him to go to Miami. I think the Miami deal is the best, maybe not for the Portland Trailblazers, but for Dame, I agree. The Miami deal is fantastic. Miami needs a dynamic guard. Miami needs scoring. I've been saying for the last 3 off seasons, Miami needs to add some more scoring to their team, and they have yet to do that. Dame would be the scoring that they need. We'll just have to wait and see if it happens, because also Joe Cronin made it very clear that he's willing to wait months for this to happen. We saw the KD deal last summer when Kevin Durant, once again in July, was like, yo, trade me or fire everybody. Well, neither happened, and they waited until the trade deadline to finally trade him. So Dame might be on this team, the Portland Trailblazers, until the trade deadline. He might be on there till next summer. We don't know at this point. I'm keeping it between. We really don't know. We'll see what happens. VR, the thing is, I meant to at everyone when I started, but I didn't want to keep atting everybody because I added y'all in the Discord. I hit y'all with an at yesterday saying we wasn't doing the stream, that the stream was going to be today at 8 o'clock. And then I hit y'all with another at around like 3 or 4 saying like, yo, reminder, streams at 8 tonight once I had the link out. And then after that, I was like, they going to want to be like, Hawk, chill out. If I ain't want to hit y'all with 3 ads in less than 24 hours, like, you know, everyone's in less than 24 hours. So that's why I was just like, if not, y'all pull up to rewatch, gang. But appreciate you pulling up, VR. Hold on. Blazers want to. Yes, the Blazers do want an all-star level talent, which is. I don't know what the Blazers. I get why the Blazers are saying all this because it is Damian Lillard. Yes, do his contract look a little crazy? Yeah, but is he coming off his best year statistically? Also, yes. But is he going to be 36 years old making $63 million? Like, there are a lot of factors, and I get it because they don't want to be the team that feels like they got fleeced and missed out on trading away their best player in their franchise history. Because you might disagree, but to me, Dame's the best Blazer to ever put on a jersey. If you ain't got him as his best, you got him at least top 3. You might say Clyde or Clyde. Like, I don't know. Brandon Roy, if he never gets injured. They're talking about trading away the best player to ever put on their jersey. So it's a big deal. I'm not mad at it. Moving on, I'm going to move on real quick to talk about James Harden. Bill Walton, you can have that conversation too. Bill Walton, another guy who's dealt with injury, though. Crazy talented, just another guy that dealt with injury. I still think he's going to fleece if he gets traded to Miami. That's the only thing I'm thinking. The only reason I don't think they'll get fleeced is because, for me, in my mind, if he does get traded to Miami, and this is only because I really don't think the Blazers are in any rush to trade him. The way Joe Cronin's been talking, he's like, yo, we will just vibe out. Because and the thing that the Blazers did that's kind of good, they put themselves in a position where if Dame want to just sit out, they chilling because they got Scoot, Anthony, and Shaedon Sharpe. They have their guards of the future. They have their young core. They could just start right now and say, yo, young core, go figure it out. And you got Jeremy Grant and rangy wing. Like, you can trade Jeremy Grant. You can keep him out there if you want his defense and some veteran leadership in that locker room. Like, there's no rush. That's the only reason I don't expect the Blazers to get fleeced, because fleeces happen when GMs are thirsty because they feel like they have to do something because they're going to miss out. If Dame was on the last year of his deal, then sure, yeah. The deal probably would have been done already because they would have felt hungry to do something. This man got mad years left. They're in no rush. He did that to himself. If you're going to keep it a being, he did it to himself when he signed his extension. If he was iffy about being there, he shouldn't have signed his extension. But in the same breath, I understand why you signed that extension, because it's crazy to turn down 2 years and $120 million. They're so close. Blazers on 4 picks. Heat offering 3. It's happening this week. I don't think it's going to happen this week, VR, because I think if it happens, the Blazers also want, we were saying earlier before you hopped on, they want JJJ, Vasquez Jr., the guy they just drafted, and they can't trade. The Heat physically and legally cannot trade him until July 31st. So at the very earliest, it's not happening until July 31st. At the earliest. Because to me, because the Blazers are saying they want young talent and young players, I don't see a world where they don't try to go get that rookie. They have to go try to get that rookie. And also, I think a third team got to be involved. This is the other thing I wrote down and forgot to say. A third team has to be involved because the Miami Heat are known to be a good team. They done been to the finals twice in the last 4 years. They done been to the Eastern Conference Finals 3 times in the last 4 years. Their draft picks aren't high. So yeah, they can give them 3 draft picks, but they're going to be the end of the first round. A third team has to get involved that wants Tyler Hero, that is at least going to be a middle of the pack, if not bad team. So that pick is high. Because what's the point of getting 3 picks from the Miami Heat if you're giving them Damian Lillard, who's still going to be there for the next 3 years? They don't plan on being bad, so those picks aren't going to be good. Like, there's just a lot of levels to this in my mind that I understand why the Trailblazers are like, we're not in a rush to do this because we have to make sure we make the right deal. And I don't think people is clicking with that because everybody just want Dame to be in Miami Heat jersey, which I get because everybody in the NBA community has been wanting Dame out of Portland for like the last 3 years. So I get it. Everybody wanting him to go how to win somewhere for the last 3 years. So I get it. But we got to use some logic here too. Ah, my light just died. That's all right. We got to use some logic here. Oh, all right. Now that that's off my chest. Yes. Anyway, James Harden to the Clippers. Yes. Anyway, is your real name Hawk? Because that's a lit name. Basically, yes. All my boys call me Hawk. Everybody calls me Hawk. It's not my real name, but everybody calls me Hawk. Somebody asked me something that I did want to touch on real quick because I saw it. Tyler Duncan in 3 first. That is, but Tyler would have to go to a third team because they don't want Duncan. The Blazers don't. I mean, the Blazers don't want Tyler. I don't think the Blazers want Duncan either, to be honest with you. And Sleazy, the Beyonce concert was fire. I ain't gonna hold you. The Beyonce concert was fire. It was fire. It was fire, bro. It was tons of moments where I was just like, wow, this isn't like just wow. That is a talented individual. That is just a talented human being. But like y'all said, on top is to keep Caleb Martin. The Heat are keeping Caleb Martin out of trade talks? They want him that bad? Interesting. Hey. Anyway, James Harden to the Clippers, question mark? Let's talk about this because this is... I was reading about this earlier today and it was... frustrating me, but I get where James Harden is coming from, right? So as we know, James Harden opted into his $35 million player option. He then requested a trade. And the rumors and reports are that he wants to go to the Los Angeles Clippers. And for the longest, I'm like, dang, James, why you want to leave? Because Personally, if you go to the Clippers, I can see that. But when the rumors were coming out that he wanted to be when he was going to be a free agent, opt out and signed to Houston because they had $65 million, I'm like, yo, why? Unless you just really want to bag that bad, you're not winning nothing in Houston. I truly, personally, still to this day, think his best option to win a championship or at least contend for a deep run in the championship, maybe outside of the Clippers, is staying with the Philadelphia 76ers. But it's reported that he want to go to the Clippers. I'm like, for the longest, why? I was really trying to figure out what was going on here. Essentially, it's believed that there was some understanding of like, yo, I'm gonna scratch y'all back, y'all scratch mine. That happened last summer when James Harden took that pay cut and signed that 2-year, like $60 million deal where he's going to be making 35 million last year and then this coming year. And the plan was supposed to be he was going to opt out of this upcoming season. The Sixers were going to throw him a bag. But Daryl Morey was like, I don't know if I want to do that no more, which I also understand. I wasn't trying to throw James Harden a bag either. And essentially, it's twofold from Daryl Morey's standpoint. Sixers GM, if you don't know who Daryl Morey is, he's Sixers GM. He used to be Rockets GM, and he was James Harden's GM while he was in Houston, so they have some history together. Daryl Morey was like, we're not going to talk to James Harden yet about free agency. His cover was he didn't want to talk about free agency before he was legally allowed to talk about free agency because the Sixers actually got fined last summer for talking to PJ Tucker too early. And they ended up talking to PJ Tucker and Daniel House too early. And they ended up losing all their second round draft picks for this year's draft and next year's draft. And I want to say we got fined as well. So he's trying to avoid that. But also, I think in the back of his head, he was like, yo, James, go see what you're worth out there on the free market. You want to be a free agent so bad and you want us to give you a bag, go see if anybody else will give you a bag. Because you're not just going to force us to give you a bag if we didn't have to, which I'm not mad at him doing that. I like that because I didn't want to give James Harden a bag. So James Harden's like, okay, let me go see what's available. The Rockets were like, well, I mean, we got love for you, but we don't want you. And then no other team has the money to pay him. But no other team has the money to pay him what he would want, right? So he opts in and demands a trade, and now he wants to go to the Clippers. Don't love it, personally, speaking from a Sixers fan. I already said I would love to see him stay, but in my head, I was like, well, what the heck did the Clippers even got? What would that even look like? That Clippers trade ain't that hard if they really want to make it happen. I think it's just Daryl Morey's going to hold his feet and try to see if he can convince James Harden to stay or get something better for him. Because I'm looking at the Clippers, and between either a combination of any of these guys can make this trade happen, basically. Nicholas Batum, Robert Covington, Marcus Morris, Norman Powell, Zubac. Probably not Zubac just because we just re-signed Paul Reed and Montrez. And I feel like we got another big too, but it might be slipping off the top of my head. But between those guys, they all make between $10 and $18 million. You put 2-3 of them guys together and you come up with James Harden's $35 million. They can throw in a couple of picks, and honestly, that trade's probably, wrapped up nicely and done. I think Daryl Morey's going to hold out to see if he can get something more. I think Daryl Morey also has proven that he's willing to hold out a while because we kept Ben Simmons all the way up until almost into the trade deadline when he made it clear that he wasn't going to play for us. So Daryl Morey's not afraid of dragging his feet on a trade. I'm not mad at that. Sometimes it works out. The only thing that worries me about that is this is a team that's a complete opposite situation from the Portland Trailblazers, where they don't have to move quickly because they're not necessarily desperate because they want to rebuild. The Sixers are honestly a little bit more desperate. They want to move quickly. Joel Embiid, we all know, wants to win a championship. He wants to compete for championships. He is still under, I looked it up. Joel is still under contract for 4 years. He has a player option for the 26-27 season, so he's going to be here for a while. But as we're seeing with Damian Lillard, who's a superstar that's still under contract, stars be asking for trades, even when they're under contract. And if for some reason Joel Embiid feels like we're not handling his opportunity or his chances to win a championship well, he could ask out. Same conversations that people were having about Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks if they didn't retain Kyrie Irving. So it just has a lot of implications for a James Harden trade. I think there are pros and cons of keeping and letting James Harden go. as much as James Harden is a polarizing player, as much as James Harden has playoff deficiencies that we have seen from time to time, James Harden also basically won 2 of those games in that Boston series for us with those 40-point performances. So I would want him to stay personally. I think it makes the most sense for him to stay. I get plenty of people will clown me for thinking that because they call him a playoff choker and shrinking when the lights get bright. But my only response would be is a random combination of Nicholas Batum, Robert Covington, Marcus Morris, or Norman Powell from the Clippers are not better, even if we get 3 of those guys. In my mind, 3 of those guys is not better than having one James Harden, simply because we saw how good James Harden and Joel Embiid were this year together. Let's see what they're talking about. The chat is being very weird and like loading in chunks. So let me see what y'all talking about. That's the other piece I thought that was interesting for the Clippers. You saying Russ, Harden, Bones, and Man. Bones ain't there no more, I thought. Or am I tripping? Bones or Man, one of them not there. I'm almost certain Terrence Mann isn't there anymore. Terrence Mann. I might be tripping. Then is it Bones that's not there? Or am I thinking of a different team? No, I might be tripping. No, yeah. All right. I'm just tripping. That is a lot of minutes for those 4 guys. And that's what I thought too. Literally, that's what I wrote down. I was like, why would he want to go there after they just signed Russ? Bones and Man to the Sixers? No. Like maybe one of them, but also like that's a huge step back from James Harden. That's what Norman Powell is still a Clipper. Like that's such a huge step back. And that's the only reason I'm like, why? Personally, Daryl Morey, I'm saying keep him. Like, I don't know, throw him out there, force him to play. But in the same breath, we've seen what James Harden does when he don't want to be somewhere. He put on that fat suit, he start bricking everything, and then it's like, well, all right, go on then, because you hooping horrible. I don't know. The Clippers guard locker room will be loaded and not in a good way. That is facts. Lineup of Russ, Harden, Kawhi, PG, and Zubac. That would be interesting, but let me see. Somebody said something that I thought was interesting. Joel Embiid gonna request a trade after next year. That's my real fear. That's a real fear of mine, bro. And y'all know how much I rock with Joel. That's a real fear of mine. That lineup is gross. I agree. Why is this being so odd today? This chat is being real finicky. YouTube gotta get their stuff together. Somebody mentioned something that I can't find it now. I saw it when I was scrolling through. Essentially, they was like, what would it look like? Would y'all want Russ in return? And when I tell you a lineup of Russ, I don't think Russ would fit well. It depends how the rest of that roster looks. While the Sixers, I think, have some decent shooting, I think James Harden was a really big portion of that spacing and shooting. Russ and Joel Embiid together on the same team sounds very similar to Russ and Ben Simmons on the same team, and I don't want that again. I don't want to. They made it work a little bit to the tune of a bunch of second round exits, but I don't want that again. We've lived that timeline. We've lived in that multiverse already. I don't want that again. Look at the Rockets in 2019. It was way worse. That's nasty. Rockets in 2019 weren't. Was that the year that Chris Paul was on there? They weren't horrible. They just didn't hit no shots in the game 7. Missed 30 something free 3-pointers. Let me see. Rage, what's good with you? How you doing? Wemby will be a great talent. I think he will. I do. I don't think he's going to go on the host because they already got 4. Like, why is this? Yo, I gotta figure this out. What's good with you, Rage? I'm doing good. Bleacher Report just said that the Heat made an offer to the Blazers, sending around Tyler Hero and 3 first-round picks. That is interesting. Let me see. No? Yeah. Honestly, ultimately, and I'll move on from James Harden with this comment here. Ultimately, I think it comes down to this: trading away James Harden at any level for whatever package we get essentially is going to be a downgrade. No matter what package we get back from him, it's going to be a downgrade. I know a lot of Sixers fans are really high on Maxey. I think he's a tremendous talent as well. I think he has potential future All-Stars in his future for sure. But I think the big piece that we will miss if James Harden isn't on this team is his playmaking. That man led the league in assists last season. Assists per game. Let me put it that way. He led the league in assists per game last season. Maxey, as much as I like the way his game is, he is a transition player. He is a bucket getter. He is not a playmaker. And the team, the reports that I'm seeing on what a potential Clippers trade would look like, unless we somehow get Russ back in it, and I don't like the idea of that, but maybe for his playmaking, Nick Batum, Robert Covington, Marcus Morris, Norman Powell, they are not playmakers. And even if they throw in either a Terrence Mann or a Bones Highland, as much as I like their game, there's a reason the Clippers were trying to get either John Wall or Russ. There's a reason the Clippers were looking still for more point guards, because those guys aren't playmakers either. I love their game. They're just not playmakers. And if James Harden does get traded away from the Sixers, if he does lead the Sixers, one of the biggest holes or return pieces that I think Daryl Morey needs to focus on is getting a playmaker in return, or after the trade, making another move to solidify some sort of playmaking. Because without James Harden, that team has no playmaking at all. All right. Let's see. What y'all in here talking about? Is Jordan Wall sleazy? Is that rookie that y'all got? Sleazy says, low key Jordan Wall's gonna be a better fit for us than Grant Williams. I didn't write these notes down, but I do have some thoughts on the Celtics, because Jaylen Brown want that super maxi. He not accepting anything else. Because Sleazy said, my fear is Jaylen Brown doesn't get a super max and he doesn't want to play for us no more, with the crying smiley face. I don't really have notes for this, but it's been something on my mind for a little bit, and I'll say this. Personally, I don't think the Clippers should give Jaylen Brown a supermax. I don't think they should give him the supermax. I think he's a tremendous talent, but I think it's really going to pigeonhole your team and their flexibility if you got two guys making that much money on your team with that similar play style. I think he can get very, very close to it. I think if you don't give it to him, he does ask for a trade. So I think you have to. But I don't think it's the best basketball move in terms of keeping that team flexible. Because I think one of the benefits and one of the things that the Celtics have been able to benefit from is being able to keep adding and moving some fringe pieces around. And that's because they've had flexibility in the cap. I would hate to be that guy to have to make that decision, but I don't think they should give him that money. I don't think they should give him that money at all. But that's the thing. That's the crazy part. I agree. I don't think y'all have another choice. I think he probably will get that supermax. And then and then from there, it will 100% be on how much do Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum develop? Like, what's their next step? Because I think as they have gotten better, I talked about this earlier in the season, like during the regular season, they get better in terms of playmaking and distributing the ball and making the right decisions with the ball. But they're still not, I would say, great playmakers. They're just decent. I think there are still times when we saw it. Jaylen Brown, not necessarily shrinks, but that left hand is a crazy deficiency of his. If they give it to him, their ceiling is going to be strictly how far can these two guys take us. And that's cool. If that's the goal, then that's the goal. You know what I mean? If you believe in these guys to be the superstars that they can be, then you got to go all in and do it. Like, if that's the goal, that's the goal, right? I just think it's going to be tough. I just think it will be tough to do that with both of them, personally. It would be tough. Why y'all in here talking about ages? Huh? Oh, that's a new name. I feel like I haven't seen in a while. Thanks for pulling to the stream. I appreciate you. I really hate the CP3. I really hate the CP3 trade, but at the same time, I understand why. Honestly, I thought the CP3 trade, in terms of what y'all gave up, what y'all got back, and maybe what else was available, and looking at some of y'all deficiencies, I don't think it was a terrible pickup. I think his play, we talked about this before, but I think Chris Paul's play style is definitely different than what the Warriors are used to. He's a slow, methodical, getting into pick and rolls and, slow the ball down and control the pace of the game a little bit more. But I think at times y'all might need that. There were a couple of times throughout the regular season and in the playoffs where either turnovers got a little crazy in the fourth quarter, leads started slipping in the fourth quarter. One of the things that Chris Paul is very good at is controlling a fourth quarter, controlling the pace of a fourth quarter. I'm curious to see what that looks like with him and Steph on the floor at the same time. Steph trying to run off ball, Chris with the ball, Chris running off ball when Steph has the ball. It's going to be a lot for Steve Kerr to figure out, but that's why y'all pay him, to figure that type of stuff out. But if in a 2K world, I think it's a good pickup. It's not the exact same because he's older and he's not the same player he was. But to me, on paper, it's very similar to James Harden and Chris Paul in Houston when they played together. It's very similar to that on paper. Cool. Appreciate you for pulling up, man. No problem, bro. Appreciate you. Sleazy says, I know Jordan Poole didn't play the best last year. Traded him for a 37-year-old. Chris Paul is not moving the needle for a championship. On top of him always getting hurt during the playoffs. I think it's more so, I'm going to keep it a beam. I think, truly, I don't think, and I could be reading too much into it, but based on every report I be seeing, him and Draymond was not going to be able to play on the team again next year. They just simply weren't. And I think Jordan Poole is great for the future. It's great for if they're trying to run that 2 timeline stuff that we talked about a couple weeks ago that I hate. You either got to be all in or looking for the future. You can't try to win a championship and look toward the future. It's just not possible. It doesn't work. Jordan Poole would have been great if they're looking forward to the future, right? But I don't think Jordan Poole and Draymond could have been on the same team together, like at all. And I think if they're going championship route, I think Draymond Green is more valuable than Jordan Poole for how they play, for their system on both sides of the court, defense and offense. Because Draymond, honestly, was excellent last year on defense. Draymond was more valuable to them, in a vacuum to them. So they decided to keep Draymond. And by keeping Draymond, you had to trade Jordan Poole. And on paper, Chris Paul's not a bad fit. But the things you're talking about, injury prone, older, we'll see what happens in real life. But it is what it is. Yeah, that's also what I love about basketball and stuff in the NBA and the offseason and stuff like that. Because yes, Draymond is the correct choice. But it's when you look at just that trade, it's like, dang, you got rid of Jordan Poole and pick up 37-year-old Chris Paul. Just that trade do sound crazy. In the bigger scheme of things, it makes sense, All right. What have we been? Almost an hour. Dang, we've been almost an hour already? I must have really had some stuff to say about James Harden and Damian Lillard. All right, moving on real quick to a couple of things. I wanted to talk about let me see. I wanted to talk about, I really can't believe I did not mean to talk about them for that long. I didn't realize it's been 53 minutes already. I got another 2 pages of notes. We ain't gonna get to all of this. I wanted to talk about a couple weeks ago, the FIBA roster was announced for the men's basketball FIBA roster. A lot of people were talking about where's the superstars. We're not even about to win. I'm optimistic on this roster for a couple of reasons. So let me just pull this up right here and share the roster with y'all. Screen share right. All right. So men's basketball roster is 2-hour stream. I remember them days, VR. We're gonna get back to them days probably more so. Like the regular season, 2-hour streams just be happening because I'm watching a bunch of games, especially early in the season. I got a lot to say about a lot of people. 2-hour streams happen a lot in the beginning of the season because I have so much to talk about between just excitement of the regular season coming back, players I want to talk about, new players on new teams, young guys. Like there's so much to talk about at the beginning of the season. The dog days in July. It's a lot on my notes still I want to get to, but we'll see how far we'll see. All right, men's basketball FIBA roster for the upcoming. Let me see. Is that no? Yeah, I clicked that for the upcoming. What is it? The qualifying games are going on. The group play games that are going on. They're playing in the Philippines. This is the roster: Paolo Banchero, Mikal Bridges, Jalen Brunson, Anthony Edwards, Tyrese Halliburton, Josh Hart, Brandon Ingram, Jaren Jackson Jr., Cam Johnson, Walker Kessler, Bobby Portis. I don't know why I was struggling to say his name. And Austin Reeves. Everybody's like, yo, where's the KDs? Where's the... Essentially, that's the main name I see coming up. Like, where's the typical USA team superstars, right? They old, y'all. They old. I think come to the Olympics, we might see a couple of the vets still in the mix to try to maybe get one last Olympics or something like that. But then again, this is what the future of the league look like from the USA standpoint. Like these guys are the future of the NBA. And for the most part, I'm excited to see these guys play FIBA together. I think defensively the team's gonna be solid. I think we're small. I'm gonna put in smaller. I'm gonna put in quotation marks. But between Jaren Jackson Jr., Defensive Player of the Year this past season, Walker Kessler. I don't know how many people were watching Utah Jazz games, but if you look at, I'm not a crazy advanced metrics guy, but by the advanced metrics, he was one of the best big man defenders in the league this season, and the eye test proved it too. He was very, very good defensively. Y'all know how high I am on Bobby Portis. He was my pick for sixth man of the year. Like both sides of the ball, I love what he can bring to a game. You guys got guys like Mikal Bridges, a great two-way guy. Josh Hart, good, solid defender and three-point shot maker. Cam Johnson, a good two-way guy. But then you got guys who are like Tyrese Halliburton, a great playmaker, bucket getter. Anthony Edwards and Brandon Ingram are there to solely get buckets. And I'm so excited to watch them two play. I follow a lot of Minnesota Timberwolves fans on Twitter, I've realized, and they're very, very high on Anthony Edwards. I don't know how high I am personally on Anthony Edwards. I think he's a really good player. I be seeing stuff on my timeline like he's got like face of the league potential. He's got like legit superstar potential. I'm gonna say I clearly need to watch more Timberwolves games because I don't feel like that yet. But we'll see. Paolo Banchero, I'm excited to watch him too in international play. Me personally, I think this is a really good team. Are there some deficiencies? Their big men, I think, are iffy. I think a lot of scoring is going to come from the perimeter. Brandon Ingram can play in the post a little bit, but a lot of scoring is going to come from perimeter play and from the wings. Their bigs, outside of Jaren Jackson Jr., Bobby Portis going to stretch the floor a little bit, but their bigs are going to be able to play defensive rebound, set some screens, roll hard to the basket, and a lot of scoring is going to come from the perimeter. But overall, I think this is a really, really good team. But the part I'm most excited about is when these young guys go to international play to play for Team USA, they come back really, really good. Like I'm very excited to see how this international play, playing for Team USA, translates into them all taking another step in terms of progressing their game when they come back to the regular season for their respective teams. Tyrese a low-key defender. Nah, I'm lying. I'm about to say, I ain't never heard nobody say Tyrese a low-key defender, but I ain't mad at it. Let me see what they're talking about. Let me see. The team is nice. Like, I'm really excited to see this team play. They're not like the guys you expect when you hear Team USA. But I think the guys we expect when you hear Team USA, we got to realize those guys are old. They're just getting old. And we also got to realize a lot of the best players in the league right now are international guys. all the MVP candidates this past year, all the finalists were international. So you're not going to, that's also part of it. Some of the best guys that, shoot, depending on who you talk to, 4 out of the top 5 guys in the league could be all international guys. Because in any order, people be having Joel, Luka, Giannis, Jokic. I've seen plenty of lists with 4 of those guys in people's top 5s in various orders. They're all international guys. They're all international play guys. So and they're all at the ages where they would be playing for Team USA if they were American. Like, they're in their primes, they would be playing, but they just ain't from here. The game is growing, legit. Ant gonna average 35. Team not even gonna touch the bronze medal. I'm dead. Steph won. Has Steph ever played in Olympics, or I'm tripping? Steph won a couple years ago. Yeah, a couple years. Steph and them won gold. Whatever the last Summer Olympics was. Whatever the last Summer Olympics was. The top 3 players are all young but can't play. That's what I'm saying. The top 3, like some of the best guys in the league just can't play for Team USA. So I think you're going to go through this molding period where Team USA looks different than what we're used to, because the best players in the world aren't from the USA. Straight facts. The best players in the world right now simply aren't from the USA. Simply aren't, which is crazy to think about when I say it out loud, because we've been used to the best players in the world being from America, but right now they just not. And for the sake of just enjoying the game and the game growing on a global basis, that's kind of cool to me. Paolo and Brunson pick and roll. Go to feed people. Wait, what? Paolo and Brunson are going to feed the homeless. Brandon Ingram not passing ball to nobody. I saw somebody say Brandon Ingram going to be he going to take on like that Melo role. He out there just to score. He going to go for 50. He's not going to go for 50, obviously, but like he's there just to get buckets. Let's see what else y'all saying. I got all my stock in Anthony Edwards for the next 5 years. That's why I'm excited to see what he does on Team USA. And I'm going to make a concerted effort to watch more Timberwolves game this upcoming season, because I hear so much. I don't want to use hype, because I don't think it's hype. I think it's genuinely, like, I see it sometimes when people be saying, but then other times I don't see it. Maybe I just need to watch them more, and that's what I'm missing out on. But I'm going to keep it a bean. I struggle to watch the Timberwolves, because every time I watch the Timberwolves, I get frustrated. The fact that Karl-Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert is on the same team, and it frustrates the heck out of me, because I think it was one of the dumbest trades ever. But we've been there before, and I don't feel like going down that what's the name? That rabbit hole. I'm not mad at young D-Wade vibes. I get that a little bit. I get low-key young D-Wade with a jumper too. I get that a little bit. All right. I ain't gonna hold y'all. I got a couple other things written on this list. We'll get to them. We'll keep going. We'll keep going. I got energy. We'll keep going. All right. 2 more things I want to talk about today. Because one, there's this movement that's happening that I've never seen before in like the NBA space. At least in the last 10 years, I feel like I've never seen this movement that's happening. I don't know what else to call it. And that movement is this. Let me pull this up. Coaches is getting paid, y'all. Spurs coach Greg Popovich's new 5-year deal is worth more than $80 million. His deal resets the coaching market after Monty Williams' recent 6-year, $78 million. These NBA coaches is getting paid. Now, it's 2 pieces. One, they getting paid money that I feel like we ain't never seen before, that from coaches getting paid. And 2, And to my knowledge, it's been public knowledge if you go out there and look it up, I'm sure. If like I went on Google and typed in how much did Brett Brown make back in 2014 or 2016 or whatever, I'm sure I could find that. My point is, I've never seen it be reported from like Woj and Shams reporting coaching deals. They just say, oh, this guy signed to be, this is the new head coach for this team. But the fact that the money is there tells me two things. One, or at least makes me think two things. Mainly one thing. These agents for these coaches, it's like, yo, tell them people how much we getting these people paid so these new coaches can come sign with our agencies because we getting people bags. So it's cool. To me, it's just more so just like a cool thing of like how, once again, just very similar in a different vein, but very similar to what we said Team USA, of how the NBA is just growing and like the business side of it is growing. There's more money going into the NBA because $80 million to coach is crazy. It's crazy. It's $20 million a year to be a coach. That's $20 million a year to be a coach. Excuse me, not 20. Because it's a 5-year deal. I thought it was a 4-year deal. It's like a little less than $15 million a year to be a coach, which is still crazy. You'll be making more than some players on your roster. I just think it's a cool thing. I think it's a cool thing. Let's see. It is the biggest coaching contract you've ever seen. I guarantee it is. It's the biggest because Monty's at the time when Detroit signed him, that was the biggest contract, the coaching contract in NBA history. That Detroit contract, that 6-year, $78 million was the biggest coaching contract in NBA history. 2 weeks later, the Spurs give Pop $580. I'm not on the Anthony Edwards agenda all the way, per se. I want to give him a fair shot. But that's facts. If anybody deserves it, is Pop. Greg Popovich going to regret it if Victor is a bust. I don't fully think that, only because Woj brought up one interesting piece of this. He says Popovich is also the president of basketball for the Spurs as well as the head coach. So it's possible that his new deal allows him to earn out the contract, which I'm assuming means allows him, if he decides to step down from being the coach, he can just continue being the president of basketball operations throughout the end of that contract to still fulfill it. Because they're saying even he can earn out the contract even if he doesn't coach the full 5 years of the deal, which makes me think he can be the president of basketball operations for the remainder of the deal and still, satisfy that contract. And that's also facts. Pop was like, yo, we got Wemby. Let me see if I can still be Pop. Let me see if I can still be me. You feel me? I might got Tim Duncan 2.0 on my hands. I'm going to stick around for it. And last thing we was going to talk about before we head up out of her, we talked about it last week to an extent. The in-season tournament got announced, I guess like a week ago now. I didn't get a chance to watch the, they did like this thing on, what was that, last Friday? They did ESPN had like a special news report infomercial. I'm trying to think of the right phrasing I want to use to describe what they did, but essentially they explained what the in-season tournament is going to be. I don't want to talk about it. Sleazy, hear me out. I disagree, but hear me out. I disagree, but hear me out. All right, so the in-season tournament. Let me pull this up. Couple of things I want to talk about here. Actually, I don't even know if y'all need to see the whole thing for real. Because let me see. It's not a whole bunch I just want to show. Essentially, in-season tournament is going to take place from the beginning of November 3rd to beginning of December, like mid-December? Beginning of December 9th. I like the way it's set up, right? I like the way it's set up because this. Ultimately, it doesn't It only adds 2 extra games ultimately. And that's for very few teams. That's the teams that go all the way. But the majority of the in-season tournament is going to be what they're calling this group play, right? And this group play is, let me see. So they put, most of y'all probably already know this, but in case you don't, because I've had to spend a little bit to figure it out myself. So I'm just sharing what I figured out with y'all. Most of the in-season tournament is going to happen within the group play. And the group play, as you see, each team was put into these different groups. They said it was based on where their seeding was last year in terms of the regular season records to try to give each group a balance. And basically, the winner from the group play, each team's going to play each other once. The winners from the group play go on to the next round. The group play games are going to count as just regular season games, right? Just regular season games. So there's no extra games, and the group play games are going to happen on Tuesdays and Fridays. So for us as quote unquote fans, if anything, all this means for fans is more nationally televised games, because they said the Tuesday and Friday games are going to be nationally televised. We don't normally get Friday games on national television during the regular season. We just don't. Sometimes we do, but not consistently. And the fact that it's happened earlier in the regular season when people say the NBA don't matter in, November, December. So many people say the NBA season don't even start till Christmas because they're watching football or whatever. But this end season tournament, I think, could add a little bit of buzz to it, get more fans involved, get more people wanting to watch it. And my biggest worry was, well, what's the incentive for the players? The incentive for the players, at least for the group play part of it, you was going to be playing these games anyway. Because at first I was like, well, how many more games you going to add to this already long 82-game season? Players ain't going to want to play, blah, 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 blah. Y'all was already going to be playing these games. So they just happen to be group play games, which I like. The second piece, after you get to the group play, 8 teams will advance to the knockout rounds, the team with the best standings in the group play games, and then 2 wild cards, right? The knockout rounds are also still going to be just considered regular season games, if I'm not mistaken. Let me make sure before I lie to y'all. Knockout rounds just a single elimination games, quarterfinals take place Monday, December 4th, December 5th, and then the semifinals and championship will be played in Vegas. Yes, I'm pretty sure just the championship and the semifinals are the ones that don't count as regular season games. But the quarterfinal games, they just leave those as like every NBA team when the schedule comes out are going to have a couple of games that are to be determined or TBA, to be announced. And it's going to be based around the knockout rounds and the rest of the regular season, the end season tournament, which means each team will continue to blah, blah, blah. Let me see. The 67 games across both stages of the end season tournament will count towards the regular season standings, except the championship game. So that's the only one that don't count towards regular season standings. That's why I like it, because outside of really the championship and the semifinals, these games are going to be regular games. Like, they're not going to add a whole bunch of extra load management to the players. The players ultimately, outside of the Vegas game, if you make the championship, you ain't got that much to complain about because you was going to be playing these games anyway. I think the way they did it is absolutely fantastic. Yes. Is it just extra money and a trophy? Sure. But because it's single elimination, it might be a little bit of extra trash talk. Teams might want to win it. It might give that feel of college basketball again because it's single elimination. I think it's just the way they did it, at least, was a very easy, almost no-brainer idea, only because they're not adding extra games. If they were adding extra games, I would agree it would be pointless. But because there's no extra games, exactly. You gonna watch it because you're a hoop fiend. That's facts. But I also think other like, I don't want to say casual fans because I hate that phrase, but like my uncles or like my mom, they might turn on a Friday night end season tournament game and be like, oh, what is this? You know what I mean? Presentation might be a little special. They might have a little logo graphic on the court. Something like just simple stuff I think would elevate the beginning of the regular season to kind of give it some buzz. Then you roll in the Christmas Day games, and then next thing you know, All-Stars coming up, and by then football season's over and like we're in a full swing of things. I think this just gives a really good opportunity to give some buzz to the beginning of the regular season. And from the NBA standpoint, it gives them opportunity for more ad money and more ad revenue and getting sponsorships involved, which then raises the salary cap. So like, I think it's just a really, really cool opportunity for the NBA to just grow its game. And as fans, to just want to watch hoop, I think it's going to be a really fun just addition. Because you know also why? I think it'll be cool. Oh, I just had it and lost it. I was literally just about to say something. And it was there and it was gone. I don't know now. Was it something y'all was saying? I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, overall, I think the in-season tournament is going to be good. I hate the name of just in-season tournament, but it'll soon be in-season tournament sponsored by Kia or sponsored by, I don't know, Walmart. Like, they going to get a sponsor for it, and it's going to be logos all over it. So it is what it is. Overall, I like the in-season tournament. Wow. Well, look at that, guys. Made it all the way through the notes. Let me see if y'all talking about anything in here before we out of here. Dennis Schroeder is 100 times better than the leader, Fred VanVleet, who hated our future franchise player, Scotter. Dinner's already made up with OG. Nah, when I seen the Woj report, I think we talked about this last week, that the Raptors quickly replaced Fred VanVleet with Dennis Schroeder. I was like, replaced? I don't know if I'd say replaced. Exactly. I don't know if I'd say replaced, but I mean they got somebody. I'm really like I'm really excited to see what Dennis Schroeder can do, because he is now like he's the Raptors point guard. In other situation, it was like, okay, you're there, especially when he's with the Lakers, like you're there, but like LeBron's the point guard, or we have other options, or when there's some other teams, like you're our sixth man off the bench. Like, no, he is the Raptors starting point guard. We'll see what he can do. I'm gonna leave it at that. I don't want to disrespect the man, but off the top of my head right now, it's 30 teams in the league. I don't know if he's a top 15 starting point guard in the NBA right now. That's all I'm saying. I don't like the idea of Dennis Schroeder being my starting point guard, but that's just me. Hopefully he can prove me wrong. I'm all happy for when I'm low on a guy, I'm all for them proving me wrong. I love when a player proves me wrong and exceeds my expectations, because for me, that means I got to watch good basketball. So it's a win-win for me. But all right, y'all, I'm about to head out of here. Appreciate y'all for pulling up to the stream. We will be live next Wednesday, 8 p.m. Once again, yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for pulling up the stream. Thanks for rocking with the boy. You know, always enjoy having conversations with y'all about hoops. I will see y'all next week, 8 p.m. Eastern. And if you made it this far live, you know what I mean? Y'all definitely real ones in the chat and stuff. But if you're a part of Rewatch Gang and you make it this far, you're a real one as well, because I ain't gonna hold you. This stream felt a little all over the place at times. So if you Rewatch Gang and made it through this, you're a real one for real. All right, y'all. I'll catch y'all next week. I'm out of here. Peace. Boo, boo, doo.